Hi, everyone. Hi. Thank you for coming out to our August open office. My name is Simon B. I work in Cops and Community team here at Monzo. I'm your host today. It's been a few months since I last stood up here at an open office, and I don't exactly remember how many customers we had then, maybe just past 2 million. But as of today, we're at 2.8, rocketing towards 3, on track to be at 4 million by the end of the year, which is crazy. And thank you all for being among that 4 million. Now, with that growth comes extra complexity in what we're doing. And I don't mean that it makes things harder to use. That's not what I mean. But I mean all the new features we've been rolling out. So things like loans, Monzo Plus, our expansion into the US. You might have seen this week we launched our Get Paid Early thing, lets you get your salary one day early. Hopefully lots of you in this room have your salaries in Monzo. If not, then now you have an extra reason to do it. And if some of you are on our forum, and I know a few of you are, because I see some familiar faces, you might have even seen sneak peeks of more stuff we're working on. One of them being getting your bills paid from a pot, which is our most voted feature in customer feedback. That's coming soon as well. Now, with that extra complexity in our app comes the need for really, really thorough testing, because nobody wants a buggy, broken app when you have your salary paid in, or even if you don't, it's not good user experience. So today, you're going to hear from Gwen about our testing process here at Monzo, what the philosophy of it is, what it looks like, and how all the various forms of user feedback from bug reports and feature suggestions and the forum and user testing and all this stuff, how it all comes together into one solid testing process. So without further ado, can I get a big hand for Gwen?
Thank you. Hello. It is amazing to be here, and it's so lovely to see you all here. Thank you so much for coming. So, my name is Gwen Diagram, and I am talking about In Search of the Black Cats and Black Swans. So you can tweet me at Gwen Diagram and at Making Monzo. So I'm here. I'm the engineering manager for quality, and I look after the product testers and all of testing at Monzo. So, a little bit about me. I actually live in Ilkley in West Yorkshire, and I really love pigeons. I also really love dinosaurs, and I organise a one-day punk rock testing conference because tech should be open and punk rock, and so we make a conference to do that. It's called the Leeds Testing Atelier, and it's in a workers' co-op, and it's really queer-friendly and lovely. And yeah, it kind of reflects how I feel Monzo is as well. So, bit of a warning here. I really like diagrams. I changed my name by default to Gwen Diagram, and so there are a lot of diagrams in here, so I hope you like diagrams too. Also, there's about 170 slides in here, so hold on to your butts. So, my Monzo journey. I've been here about 6 months. Started off as the lead product tester, and now I'm the engineering manager for quality. And yeah, it's been really fun. There's been a lot to learn. It's very exciting. And I look after the testing discipline, as I said. So we're pretty small for the size. There's only 6 of us, but that's cool. We're also very well formed. And some of them are here tonight, so you can have a chat to them later over there. So inspiration for this talk. So Black Cats, I took from Ard Kramer, who does a really good talk on finding black cats in a room. It's a beautiful talk. And Rosie Hamilton spoke about the black swans to do with logic. And then Noah Sussman, he talks about the band pass filter, which I'll be talking about later. So they're quite excellent people if you want to check them out. Are there any testers here? Brilliant. Okay, there's a few, but not many. That's fine. Testing's fun. One of my absolute favorite things about testing is you think that your company is always the worst at testing. So I used to work at Sky, and when I worked at Sky, I went over to the BBC to talk about testing with them. I took my team over there, and I was kind of ashamed about what I was doing at Sky. I was like, I don't think that would be good enough. But the thing is mobile testing is a really hard problem to solve, and I'd just started solving it there. And so I was behind where we wanted to be. However, the thing was everyone has problems, and it's okay. No one's perfect. No one's got this solved. Like everyone's innovating on it all the time. So don't be ashamed of of your testing and where you are, because testing is a product, not a project. And we are on a journey of testing. And the goalposts will always be moving. So, what I'm going to be discussing in the next session is what the role of a tester is, what testing is not, what testing is, and how we can create robust products as a team. So, what exactly do testers do? At the moment, at Monzo, we're doing a fair bit of exploratory testing, which is like trying to find a black cat in a dark room. We might think that the cat is there, but unless we can prove it, the cat is not. Testing is setting up experiments to prove or disprove the cat's existence. And sometimes we will even find black swans instead of black cats. Black swans are unwanted, unpredictable events. And so we want as little of these unwanted, unpredictable events to occur as possible. Testing is not just about finding bugs either. And if it was, we could just hire more testers instead of the 6 that we have. And those testers, they could just find more bugs. But then the thing is you need to fix the bugs after you find them. And there will always be more bugs to fix, as software will never be bug-free. That aeroplane you fly on, there's bugs on that. There's bugs in every piece of software you're using today. If you were only fixing bugs, when would you build features? It's like, no, we are too busy to build anything brand new because we're fixing all the bugs all the time. Testing is helping deploy quality software faster by developing feedback loops. And there's many ways to express how we can create early feedback. Through pyramids, or more often ice cream cones where you have a whole bunch of manual testing and hardly any automation. But I prefer a bandpass filter where you can't find any bugs in the previous component because you found all the other ones in the top one. Yeah, there. In the past, we would build a testing pyramid for one application. But now it's more complicated than that. We're not building 3-tier applications anymore. We're building a whole front end which has like logic in it, and maybe 2 front ends like we've got here, iOS and Android, and then you've got an API as well. So at Monzo, we're still working on our journey. We're not perfect, and that's fine. But working together as an entire development team, we're going to reduce the size of the black swans. And instead, we can focus on finding the black cats. So to create a brilliant product, you need strong feedback. So we're going to be exploring Monzo's feedback loop. Testing is all about creating fast feedback. The first 3 feedback loops in that diagram are white box testing, black box, and exploratory. White box testing is where you have view of the code. So that's like developers writing tests within their IDE, for instance, which typically focuses on unit, component, and integration testing. However, for our iOS and Android apps, we do a little bit differently than just the standard unit, component, and integration. For iOS, instead of integration and component tests, we use snapshot tests. Whereas on Android, we use screen and flow tests. So the reason we have this difference is because Monzo is 4 years old. So we needed to build stuff fast. Or we might not have been around to see 5 years old. And we needed to create fast feedback loops as well, so we could actually verify what we were building. Snapshot tests for iOS are a really fast way of creating feedback. They're really easy to create. The snapshot tests compare a picture of what the expected result is of the end and to the result that the test is asserting against. So these tests are created really, really fast, but they do run quite slow, so it doesn't really fit with the fast feedback. So we're looking to supplement them with other kinds of tests. For Android, we use flow and screen tests. They run locally and they give fast feedback. But there's not enough of them. We want to create some more to increase coverage. So on to the next thing, black box testing. Black box tests are where the tests don't have any knowledge of the underlying code. So you're not messing around with the code to build these tests. So this has been what one of my big focuses has been while I've been at Monzo. And this is where I'm going to talk about some of the problems that I've encountered trying to build these tests. So, you know, when you log into Monzo, you log in and it's pretty smooth. Like, you probably don't even remember. But basically what happens is you log in, you get a magic link to your email, and then you click on that in the email, like this one, and you're logged in. And then you can see all your money, and it's excellent. So let's have a think about how we could automate that. Tests should have a few different properties when you're writing tests. They should be fast. I love fast tests. And they should not be flaky. You don't want them to break all the time so they're telling you incorrect results. And they should reflect what you're actually doing within the app, especially at this level that I was doing. So because I was doing the end-to-end test, the customer journey flows. So to automate the user interface from the front end, you would need to sign in and then go into the mail app, which is probably Gmail, it was in this case, and then you need to wait for this email to arrive. Wait. And then you need to click on the link when it eventually comes, and then you need to go back to the Monzo app, which is going to create a really flaky test and not the kind of test that I want. Because we have absolutely no control over Gmail. And waiting around for tests that you have absolutely no control over, well, that's not going to bode well for non-flaky tests. So I worked with a back-end developer, one of my favorite devs. I have a lot of favorite devs though, and we created a magic link API that I could call. So I could call this from the tests. So with the tests, I write the tests in the same language as the developers use, because it's really too important to write it in this language to ensure that the tests don't end up abandoned. Because the only thing worse than flaky tests that break all the time are tests that aren't run at all, therefore providing absolutely no feedback. So we write our tests in Kotlin and Swift, and we are very early in our journey here, but we're going to be doing it. So we use XUI Test and Espresso, which are the native mobile tooling. And we get a lot of help from the developers on this at the moment as well. So as testers, though, we're still really learning this because we're not master coders. We're not master coders at all, so we need a lot of help. So moving on to the next one is exploratory testing, the next thing in the little feedback cycle. Exploratory testing is a really wide subject, which I'm only going to touch on really briefly. The way we exploratory test at Monzo is we test the new features by exploratory testing. And it's up to the testers what kind of mental models they want to use, but they determine how they're going to test this. But our regression testing also harnesses a bit of exploratory testing. Regression testing is a horrible word, but I always think of this, the end of 2000 and Space Odyssey, how the dude regresses. Yeah. So at Monzo, I love it. When I first interviewed with them, I was like, how often do you release software? Because I'm not working somewhere where we don't release software ever. And they were like, we release once a week. And I was so happy because releasing a mobile app once a week, it's kind of hard. Yeah, it's great for a mobile app. But each week, we need to ensure that the app still works as expected. To do this, we follow a set of expected behaviors. So our scripts that we use for the regression testing, that's going to be automated in the future, but it's not yet. They're loose directions instead of scripts. Because following scripts is really boring. And we are intelligent people. I'm not there to follow a script every day. I can't even bake a cake hardly because I can't follow directions, so you know. But following scripts doesn't allow you to inspect what's interesting off the side when you find interesting things either. And so our regression testing, it usually takes around 4 person-hours a week, which we're trying to automate away. Although this has changed a little bit with the new navigation, which you might have seen bits of on the forum. So we're testing on the old and the new navigation weekly now. So what we do is we swarm on this as a discipline. And that's how we deliver a product of known quality weekly. So what's after exploratory testing on my really badly drawn spiral? Dog fooding. So what is dog fooding? So it's said that the head of Calcan Pet Food in the 70s or 80s named it dog fooding as he went to a board meeting, and to prove that his dog food was excellent, he ate the dog food at his meeting, which sounds excellent. I would have loved to see that. So at Monzo, we eat our own dog food. By all of us using the app, we test the app early and we ask our staff to test it as well. And we ask them to help us test it through a concept called product ambassadors, or we hold testing parties as well, which is my favorite because I love a good party. So it's fairly new that we started holding these parties, but it's a really quick and easy way to get feedback from our staff. Like, what do you think of this? Is this working? Yeah. So at the moment, we're implementing strong customer authentication, which is a regulation thing, to ensure that this doesn't affect our customers at all and it's as smooth as possible. We're holding a breakfast and test party tomorrow morning at 8:30, for staff, where I give them food and they test things, and then we find the bugs quicker and we get more feedback. So we do that to ensure that we give you the best experience. So next on is experiments. So experiments are better known as A/B testing. And I'd never seen it done quite to the extent that it is at Monzo. And it makes me really, really happy. At Monzo, we run a huge number of experiments. So we can see what actually works best for the customer. An example of an experiment that we ran lately was My Monzo. So what My Monzo does is it helps people learn about all the different kind of features that Monzo has. So we predict an outcome when we set these experiments up. It's like a normal science experiment. So for this one, we predicted maybe 5% more people will open pots if they see in My Monzo that you get to tick it off if you open a pot. And then we have a look and we assess if the experiment actually works, because we might be wrong as well. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. So that's really good because we build features that customers actually use and want instead of what I want. Because maybe I really, really want something, but no one else cares, which is a lot of the time. But yes, so we ensure that we build things that customers love and use. And we get that from the experiment feedback. User research. This is moving further away from testing itself, but the way we also do it is very beautiful. So our user researchers speak to customers pretty much, daily. It's amazing. And the rest of the team, we also get to speak to customers as well. I've never worked somewhere where I get to speak to customers. It's the most thrilling thing, like seeing how what you're working on people actually use. And so we can understand when we speak to customers if we are building the right thing there as well. So beta testing is getting early feedback by getting our customers to opt into early builds, and they feedback through different methods there. And the last loop is customers speaking to us directly. So we've got Cops, Forum, Twitter, the App Store or Play Store, and then Trustpilot. So through our really awesome customer service people who we call Cops internally, the community forum, Twitter, the app stores, and Trustpilot. So, testing at Monzo. It's kind of massive. There's a lot to test. But every single time that you give us feedback, whether it's through the experiments that you might be in, or whether it's via talking to cops, or reviewing on the App Store, you are testing the app as well. And we're building this bank for you, and so your feedback matters. So thank you. Because we want to make banking work for everyone.
Thank you, Gwen. Incredible talk. We have some time for questions. I'm going to come around with this mic, and if you want to put your hands up if you have some questions for Gwen, then we'll do that. Cool. We got one over here.
Hey, thank you for the talk. I run a machine learning AI company that makes websites better, and it's a SaaS-based model. We only launched a few months ago with 4 people, got 205 customers. How do we approach testing? I mean, we're starting to look at coding and building lots of tests in our code to start with, but I mean, you showed the model, but obviously we're very limited. How much time and resources do you dedicate, and what point and what should we be looking at for quick wins?
Yeah. So I'm going to say the horrible thing, but it depends. But the place to get most spread is by doing the end-to-end customer journeys, but figuring those out are quite difficult as well. And it's common that they're flaky. But that will be the quickest way. So in the past, what I've done is I've set up, I've used monitoring sites. When I was like in that kind of situation, I used monitoring sites like Status Cake, which like you could get free things on and do that. What are you using?
We use Sentry for
Yeah.
Microsoft Azure at the moment, and that every time something breaks, we get that
Yeah.
that feedback of what's breaking and not. And we're trying to create a community around our product, which is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But we're trying.
It's what those also do, which is quite a neat effect, is it's quick performance testing as well, which is like a cheat to performance testing, because every time you do a release, you can see if your code's doing worse. Like the way that you should do performance testing is very different. But if you want a cheat, that works as well. So if you're setting something up and you're in really early stages, it's kind of it's a fuck it, ship it mentality. Like get it out there instead of getting stuck and bogged down, and get as much around to get feedback as early as possible as well.
Brilliant, thank you.
You're right.
We got any more questions? Yeah. Yeah.
Given that you release an app every week, what is the turnaround time in getting that app, that release approved for the next week? Because with the Scrum, I don't know how long your Scrum run for, but like, yeah.
So generally what we do is, the branch cutoff is on a Tuesday. So I'll work forward from the Tuesday. So from the Tuesday, you're building everything until the next Tuesday, then you cut off at midday. And then what will happen is you will, so the testers will get the builds and we'll start doing the regression tests. So I don't know, we might do a couple of release candidates after that as well, because the testers will find issues. And then, so we submit it to the App Store on Thursday or Friday, depending. And then, and we release it on Android, we release it to like 10%, and we assess like if there's been any crashes. So we do a lot of monitoring and stuff like that. And then usually we'll release it on Monday morning. We'll check and we'll be like, how's it gone over the weekend? And then we'll release it. So for the teams can follow whatever mythology they want, except for waterfall, because I mean, like that wouldn't work unless you were doing, well, I mean, sometimes sprints are mini waterfalls, aren't they? But anyway, so people will follow kind of Kanban things or Scrum things. Yeah, but just make sure that what you want is in by Tuesday. Yeah, so testing that is interesting because different teams will need to get their stuff tested earlier as well. So some people have like a demo on Friday to show what they've done. So the testers got like all of Monday or like, but we always try and ensure that things are smaller so we can test earlier than just like, okay, it's Monday, let's like just hammer the testers. So yeah. So we release on the Monday. Yep, after we've had it in the App Store. like all weekend, and people have downloaded it on beta, so we can see if they've had any crashes and make sure. So yeah, that's why beta is like really important to us.
Hello, Gwen.
Hi, Dan.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. How do you build and coach your teams to make sure that you've got the coverage that you want? Because 6 testers in a big organization like this doesn't seem like a lot.
No.
Well, I've got like 3 or 4 times that across the business, and we don't even scratch the surface sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to know. And we're in fintech as well. It's far slower paced than Monzo is because it's pensions and investments. So.
So it's not easy. It's not easy at all. So we've hired really, really amazing testers who will go in and they will change things within the team. So they'll start implementing processes and stuff like that, because the teams have been, so a lot of the teams haven't had a tester before, or they've only had one tester. We only had one tester for all of Monzo before I started. So they had such a light touch. So the testers that we've hired are going into teams and coaching them and being like, you can't give me things on a Tuesday, for instance. And then I'm working with a lot of the senior devs as well to start. So they're starting up their own testing like groups as well. So there's been like an iOS testing group that's going on for a while, because devs want testing as well. And they really want testing. And so people are bringing it in themselves. And yeah, I kind of shout by the side, but a lot of the thing people are like, we need this. So yeah.
We'll go to the back bit. Okay. Getting my exercise in today.
Hi. You said you do loads of A/B testing. What's the most like interesting result you've ever had from an A/B test, or shocking result, surprising, anything like that?
Oh, there was one where we were really surprised it didn't work, but I'm not close enough to it. There's a team that like, well, maybe they should do a talk at some point because it's the most beautiful thing ever. But yeah, it was something around, I can't remember. I'm sorry, I've disappointed you.
Thanks.
Hi there. How do you approach testing where the only way to do a true test is to wait for time to elapse? So I'm thinking, for example, of some of the like open banking integrations where it might work now, but there's a token that's going to expire and it's going to expire in the wrong amount of time or something, but you're only going to see that after 7 days or 30 days or something like that.
I'm testing this at the moment and it makes me really happy because this is like my exact kind of testing that I really love. So it's all about testability and inserting hooks in. So in staging, for instance, that token runs out in 1 minute or 5 minutes, and the developers have inbuilt that. So we can test in staging that it works, and then in live, like we have the knowledge that it'll work. So yeah, creating testing hooks, basically. Well, is it called testing hooks? But yeah, creating ways that we can actually test it in a different environment.
So that's where you're providing information to a third party like Yolt or something, is it? Or
so that's for the open banking, like PSD2.
PSD2.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's where, because the thing you're because you tested this integration recently with Barclaycard.
Yeah.
So there you're bringing in information from a open banking provider to Monzo and surfacing it in Monzo.
Yeah.
And then you can't control Barclaycard's token expiry time.
So with that, I don't have the details exactly of that, but we were testing against their staging environment, basically. So they've got fake cards that we can test against. But I don't have the in-depth details of that. I'm sorry.
Any more questions? Yep, over here. Cool.
I think I remembered your answer. I think it was something around Monzo, Monzo.me. that we thought would work, and we didn't get any more clicks. And we were like, oh, this is funny. But yeah, because you do assume like that something will yeah.
Hi. I was just in terms of dog fooding, when you were speaking about that, what would you suggest if the product you have isn't something any of your employees use,
Mhm.
like at all?
So I'd create like testing parties, like I said, where you can do like mob testing together. Because I've never worked somewhere where I did actually use the product before here. It's quite rare that you will. So in the past, yeah, I got people to go around and test it together. So I got, like, for instance, I got all the testers mob testing. I didn't make it as wide as a development team, but you could do that as well because I had like 30 testers. But yeah, does that?
Just say, for example, you had like an app for graphic designers,
Mhm.
and no one in your team was a graphic designer, so they would never use that. So you'd still, it's kind of like you'd have a testing party, get a group of graphic designers, and then okay,
Yeah,
cool.
so you probably need to do some user research there and get it in front of the customer, and say like, what do you think? Yeah, otherwise it would be really difficult to know you were building the right thing. Yeah.
Sorry, one more. My background, I came from a data consultancy where I did a lot of A/B optimization testing on websites, and obviously you have to have a volume of traffic. And you mentioned that Monzo does lots of experiments at the same time. The two common problems I have with that is one, you don't have the statistical significance. You have to run them for a really long time
Mhm.
before you get your results. We're trying to overcome that with synthetic traffic, but that's another question. What challenges that? And the other thing is more from your customer support point of view. If you've got lots of different customers seeing different versions of the app, how do they make sure and you keep them in the loop with different things? Because in the past, I've seen if I've got something different to my mate, that can create a bit of conflict.
I asked the same thing when I started. So when I first started, I was in the growth engagement team who does all these experiments, and I was like, won't I be annoyed if my partner, who also uses Monzo, sees something different? And we don't come across that problem very often. So for the experiments, if it's big experiments like, and they speak to customer service, on the customer service screens, it will tell them like, and the customer service can see all the experiments that they're in. So it makes it quite clear to them like what they might be seeing, and we have very good communication with the customer service people.
What about things like help guides? If you've got two different journeys and you've got a website that helps, or is it just because you push people through your customer service agents?
Yeah. For the help guides, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't have the answer. But yeah, it hasn't. We don't. Occasionally, we'll. So when we rolled out the new navigation, we had someone, like, you know, when Facebook rolls out a new version of Facebook or whatever, and everyone's rioting. And so we had some people contact us and say like, I hate the new navigation, take us off it. And it's like, okay, cool. So we could turn it off. If people are really angry about it, then it's like, well, fine. Like, that's good feedback. Thank you. Yeah.
Great.
I think we have time for one more question if there is one. Yeah. Yep. No pressure.
A lot of pressure. You spoke about wanting to get more automated testing. At the minute, it's quite a manual process that you go through. Do you have a rough idea of what current code coverage percentage you have on the current product?
Yeah. So it was higher than I thought. We've got the three different, like, you know, I showed the three different bandpass filters. So for the API, it was 40. And for Android, I think it was 30. But yeah, I don't have, like, yeah, I can't remember what iOS was. I don't know if we got it.
Is that something you're wanting to implement as part of your automation strategy?
Oh, so we will not have 100% code coverage because I don't believe that you should be working to code coverage metrics like that. So what the code coverage metrics, what I wanted them in there for was to have a finger in the air. So you could be like, okay, we've checked this in. Does it have any coverage? So when we refactor this next time, will we be comfortable refactoring it? But I'm not going to try and force people to have 100% code coverage because that creates people writing tests for things that don't need tests and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah. Does that answer?
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, thank you, everyone. Can we get one more round of applause for Gwen, please?
Thank you.
Make sure you grab some food if you didn't already. Grab a drink, hang out. Gwen's going to be here. I'm going to be here. Lots of other awesome staff will be here. And we'll tell you when it's time to be kicked out.